Hello and welcome to the Telegraph studios and Business Reporter's Data Economy campaign, hosted by the Telegraph Online. I'm Alistair Greener. With the number of connected devices globally at 28.4 billion and set to increase, the demand for reliable and robust connectivity is set to grow. Even today, many of us have been irritated by slow Wi-Fi in a downtown coffee bar, airport or hotel when trying to download emails or simply stay connected to friends and family. Most of us know this experience firsthand. Slow public Wi-Fi in a coffee bar is only a symptom. Experts claim that without fast, secure, omnipresent connectivity, a metropolis cannot develop further. The gap between the standard of life and the exponentially increasing needs of the citizens, businesses, organisations and municipalities widens rapidly until it becomes unbridgeable. How has information exchange and Wi-Fi become the central problem of urban, social and economic development? To understand these challenges and to address what we can do to build smart cities, we're talking to Nick Watson from Ruckus Wireless. Good morning.
Good morning, Alistair.
Looking around the world, cities are getting bigger, they're getting faster. City centrals are often enjoying spectacular rehabilitation. But what makes a city smart?
A smart city, put simply, is when a citizen is interconnected, having a conversation, having a relationship with the city, whether it's the business or whether it's a citizen. They are engaging in an ongoing dialogue. And the reason this is so important is government now understand that they have lost touch with their citizen. The illustration of that could not have been clearer than the referendum result last year and the US election result last year. In both cases, everybody assumed it was going in a different direction. Why did they assume? Because they were interconnecting, they were communicating between the citizen and the government in a way that the citizen just wasn't interested in engaging in. And the smart city enables a two-way dialogue that the citizen wants to have with the city. So it's a significant amount of technology, yes, but it's a behavioural change. It's a feeling that now I want to engage again with government.
Well, if the evidence is there and it's such a good thing for citizens and governments, why are so many European cities just waking up to it now?
I think people haven't realised this enormous logarithmic exponential growth in how people use technology. They're simply not having a conversation. And business got this a few years ago because they had disruptive competitors coming into their market using this technology. And what it has caused people to do is to wake up to the fact they were losing money. They were being beaten by the competitors. Government haven't really had that so much. They haven't had that wake-up call. So now, as a result of the European Union initiative, we're starting to get millions of euros being put forward to provide Wi-Fi, to connect us across the European cities. And the UK government, particularly superfast broadband, this initiative, this is really as a result of people suddenly realising they were no longer in that dialogue, they were no longer in touch with their citizen.
Let's talk about being in touch with your citizens and if you're able to unlock all of this great knowledge. What are the benefits of that and then how can you turn that to your advantage?
Well, the benefits are many, many-fold, not least of which being I now know early what you're really thinking, what you want me to prioritise. We all know every government, local, central, has not enough money to satisfy demands. So how do we know that when I'm investing in this area here, it's what my citizen wants me to do? And the way in which I need to provide for that comes down to addressing technology and enabling people to interact in a way they want to. You want to have dialogue with anybody today, you'd better have technology that connects them, that makes them feel part of a community, using their smartphone, using their tablet. And there are some cities who got this early on for a matter of different reasons, and they have seen huge benefits in regenerating their city, in improving safety, and we can talk more about that as we go.
So let's talk about this almost like brave new world. First of all, how far are we away from it actually happening? You talked about some cities who are doing it. Which are these cities, and which are the ones that maybe are lagging behind and are not doing it?
Well, there are some cities around the world who have been well in advance. There's one in particular, Hamburg in Germany, who during a botanical exhibition some 5 years ago felt that people might want to take photographs and they might want to send them to people. They facilitated that botanical exhibition with Wi-Fi. It was one of the earliest city Wi-Fi deployments entirely by Ruckus technology, and it was a huge success. To the point today, if you go into Hamburg, you can seamlessly connect between Wi-Fi devices, whether you're a visitor or whether you're a citizen, and they get a huge benefit out of that. But here in the UK, York is a shining example of an organisation who have thought about how do they make it more appealing for people to come to the university, come to visit, to interact with them, and starting out with an infrastructure which largely today people are starting with public Wi-Fi, but on top of that people are layering on sophisticated applications, and people are getting to that point where you have a public-private partnership that provides the funding. If you look to America, city of San Jose completely regenerated the center of the city. Part of that, they wanted to compete with San Francisco for visitors. By changing completely the experience that people got in that city, they are generating huge revenues as people come from the airport, seamlessly connecting onto Wi-Fi, into their hotel, in the streets, and everything about that environment now, people feel safer, more connected, and they're taking market share in terms of residency and in terms of people coming back to the city both as tourists and indeed living there.
So if it's all so good, how do you deal with interference?
Interference is actually the biggest single challenge in Wi-Fi, and it's the very basis that Ruckus set out to solve 12 years ago. And I'll try and use an analogy of a light bulb here. You put a light bulb in, it shines across the whole room. You put a more powerful light bulb in, it shines brighter across the room. So very often the really unusual thing that people see is they have a performance problem. They add another access point and the performance problem gets worse, not better, because they're missing the point that the way in which this operates, it has to be separate, and it has to be, as I say, like a torch connecting with you, not a light bulb that interferes with another light bulb across the room.
Let's say that an ambitious city or municipality has recognised that they really need to get connected. They need to incorporate all of these ideas we've been talking about, and they decide to work with you at Ruckus Wireless. Tell me how that's going to work. What's the procedure going to be?
The starting point, though, is to recognise that whilst the infrastructure that's being built, it needs to be complex and it does need to be sophisticated, even though the objective is to make it simple for the person using it. This is not a challenge that can't be overcome. It may look daunting, the temptation might be to do nothing, but actually to put up public Wi-Fi, as many cities around the world are doing now, is relatively straightforward. The challenge is selecting the correct technology to give the experience that people will want to continue using. Our background when we set out to design the technology was to work with service providers, and that's something that we have distinguished ourselves over the years. So very often the municipality building out a smart city will have multiple different things to consider, one of which will be lighting. A lighting manufacturer's changing to LED lighting, one of which will be the fibre connection, the performance that we typically expect from broadband, as the term is used, and they'll have a service provider there. They have civil engineering companies that will be involved in all this. And we're very comfortable with being the entity that provides the blueprint, the design, and the, in many cases, the business model throughout the life of that deployment.
And how do you measure success in this environment?
Well, ultimately, success has to come from either the private sector or public sector, the customer or the citizen. They have to see that the app they've chosen to use, with the kind of media, the technology they're using, with the device that they're choosing, is working so fast they don't even think about it. What we're trying to get is a community, an interaction between the citizen or the customer and the government or the business. It's the experience I'm getting as a result of this. And what we saw, for example, during the football tournaments in France recently, is a massive density of fans in areas which were called fan zones. The challenge of everybody connecting when that goal is scored, that is the acid test, the ability to walk down the Champs-Élysées and actually then use Facebook and various different social media to be able to use a video call to somebody. Again, these are the things that people need to test.
Today we're talking more and more about the Internet of Things. So where does IoT fit in? What role does it have in a smart city?
Right now, the biggest driver for the use of IoT is within a smart city environment. It might be to provide better electricity metering, it might be to provide environmental controls, it could be simply to say you can park over here, don't drive around the city 3 times, there's a parking space over here. These kind of things are real material benefits. We call it smart cities simply because IoT can be so many things, it's also often nothing but a buzzword. Smart cities actually achieves more in my mind than purely talking about IoT. Of course, IoT can be extended into industrial environments, into various different areas outside of smart city.
Tell me a little bit more about you, about Ruckus Wireless. Who are you and who are the people behind it?
Ruckus, like so many of the Silicon Valley companies, was founded by 2 genius-level engineers who set about trying to solve a problem. As people started to try and connect devices, they wanted to be able to connect on a Wi-Fi connection, and this was what they set out to design. The experience that they got was, how do I provide a low-cost device that has great RF characteristics, radio frequency characteristics, that connects my set-top box, that connects my satellite device, that connects my stereo into a home environment. That's where it began, and as it grew and grew, people started to pick up on the fact that we had this unique capability with our aerial technology.
I'd like to go back to something we were talking about earlier on, and that was about the connectivity of citizens, the fact that the municipality can gain knowledge from its citizens and so on. The trouble is, as soon as people start talking about that, the conversation gets hijacked by the whole principle of privacy and security. How can you assure the citizens of a smart city that actually they are safe?
The key thing to remember is actually Wi-Fi doesn't make you more or less secure. You are just as secure using Wi-Fi as you would be connecting to a cable on your computer. There's a lot of work that's been done in terms of providing onboarding. There's a lot of work that's been done in securing the information in the server rooms, and it's up to the individual to decide how much actual information they share. But it's not to do with how they connect. The Wi-Fi is entirely independent of whether you are secure or not.
We know that we're living in an ever-changing environment, and in fact that change is accelerating all the time. So fast forward, how can you be sure that your ideas are sustainable? What are we going to be doing in the future to make sure that we keep up with this accelerating change?
Well, the ultimate that we're aiming toward in the relatively near term, in a few years as opposed to 10 years, is to get to the point where you can seamlessly roam with your device between what has traditionally been viewed as a mobile network, 2G, 3G, 4G, and the Wi-Fi network. Because people want the performance that Wi-Fi gives at the cost, which is often zero, that Wi-Fi gives, with the ubiquitous availability that typically you would get more in a mobile type of network. Of course we want it all. Of course we want it all. So we're aiming towards that. The way we're avoiding becoming obsolete as we go forward is that we have spent a lot of time with our top engineers sitting with the standards bodies, contributing to what people are trying to design for the future. And also we have the benefit, because we are a very focused company, is we're not diluting our investment in research and development across many different fronts. We're focused just on solving that one problem. How do we get fantastic performance Wi-Fi out to people?
Well, it certainly sounds like we're going to be living in some very exciting and very connected cities in the future. Nick Watson from Ruckus Wireless, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Alistair.